The unthinkable has just happened. Drake the man once called the most unstoppable force in hip-hop. The artist who dominated charts, sold out arenas, and defined an entire generation of music is facing the biggest humiliation of his career. Because, according to insiders, he has just been banned from hip-hop. Forever? Yes, you heard that right. Drake, the so-called certified lover boy. The rapper who built an empire out of global hits is now the target of a brutal industry takedown. And what makes this even more shocking is that it's not just rivals, not just haters. It's the entire hip-hop industry turning its back on him. So what happened? Whispers began swirling after a string of feuds, controversies, and betrayals that painted Drake as the villain of the rap game. The final straw, according to anonymous insiders, was a series of backroom conversations among hip-hop's most powerful players. The message was clear: we've had enough. Drake's out. And the fallout has been immediate. Fans are flooding social media with disbelief. Drake banned. This can't be real. Others are furious, posting after everything he gave the culture. This is how they treat him. But industry veterans are saying something different. They're whispering that this was inevitable. That Drake's arrogance, his secret moves behind the scenes, and his constant need to control the narrative finally caught up to him. And here's the chilling part. It's not just an unofficial boycott. Sources are claiming Drake is being locked out of collabs, cut off from major events, and even blacklisted from certain platforms. In other words, the machine that helped build him into the biggest rapper in the world has shut down. The shockwaves are enormous. Because love him or hate him, Drake wasn't just another rapper. He was the blueprint, the face of modern hip-hop. And now, watching him fall from grace feels like watching a king stripped of his crown live in real time. But the story doesn't end there. Because insiders are leaking details about why this ban was pushed so hard, and trust me, the reasons will leave you speechless. From explosive beefs with fellow rappers to accusations of betrayal inside the industry, to a secret meeting that could change everything. The truth behind Drake's banishment is darker than anyone expected, and the question on everyone's lips tonight: is this the end of Drake's career? Or the beginning of a war that could tear hip-hop apart? For over a decade, Drake wasn't just part of hip-hop, he was hip-hop. From the moment he broke into the mainstream with Best I Ever Had, critics knew he was different. He wasn't the hardened street rapper with a gritty backstory. He was the kid from Toronto who blended rap and R&B, who wasn't afraid to sing, who connected to emotions fans didn't even know they needed from hip-hop. And instead of being dismissed, he conquered. Drake built his empire brick by brick, hit by hit. By the mid-2010s, he was untouchable. Chart dominance became routine. Take Care wasn't just an album, it was a cultural reset. Nothing Was the Same solidified him as a global superstar. And then came the monster hits: One Dance, Hotline Bling, God's Plan. Songs that weren't just popular, they were everywhere, defining summers, parties, and entire eras by the time Scorpion dropped. Drake wasn't competing with rappers anymore. He was competing with himself, shattering streaming records, moving culture forward with every release. He was bigger than the genre, a force that seemed invincible. But here's the thing about invincibility: it breeds resentment. Behind the scenes, whispers started spreading years ago. Some artists accused Drake of biting flows from smaller rappers, of jumping on waves he didn't create but popularized. Others pointed to the ghostwriting scandal, when Meek Mill shocked the world by accusing Drake of not writing his own bars. For many, that was the first crack in the armor. A rapper's authenticity is sacred, and even though Drake survived the scandal with hits like Back to Back, the whispers never fully died. Then came the feuds. Pusha T's infamous diss track The Story of Adidon pulled back the curtain on one of Drake's biggest secrets, his hidden child. It wasn't just a personal embarrassment. It painted Drake as someone willing to hide the truth from fans, from the industry, from the culture itself. And though he weathered the storm, the damage was done. That perfect image, gone forever. Even his business moves drew criticism. Drake aligned with some of the most powerful names in hip-hop, but insiders whispered he also burned bridges just as quickly. Collaborations that started strong fizzled into silent beefs. Up-and-coming artists accused him of using their sound for clout, then leaving them behind. Rumors of backroom deals and betrayals followed him everywhere. And let's not forget the elephant in the room: Drake's complicated relationship with hip-hop culture itself. Critics accused him of being an outsider, of watering down rap for mainstream audiences. Some said he was more pop star than rapper, more entertainer than lyricist. While his fans celebrated his versatility, purists in the culture saw him as a symbol of commercialization, a brand masquerading as an MC. All of these cracks, all of these controversies, all of these whispers, they didn't destroy him. If anything, they made him bigger. Drake thrived on being doubted. Every scandal was followed by a smash hit. Every diss track was answered with a chart-topping anthem. But here's the truth: you can't fight the entire industry forever. For years, rappers kept their distance, sometimes firing subtle shots, sometimes outright dissing him. Producers whispered that Drake had too much control, too much influence, too much power. Industry gatekeepers, the same people who once opened doors for him, began questioning if he was good for the culture. And yet, Drake always found a way to stay on top. Until now. Because this latest wave of whispers isn't like the others. This isn't just a rapper calling him out in a verse. This isn't just critics questioning his authenticity. This is insiders claiming that Drake is being officially frozen out, blacklisted from collaborations, cut off from industry events, even quietly banned from platforms that once boosted him to superstar. The betrayal cuts deep because the same machine that helped build Drake into an icon is the one turning its back on him. The labels, the promoters, the managers, the insiders, they're all whispering the same thing: it's over. Fans are confused. How can someone who defined the last decade of music suddenly be exiled? But those close to the industry aren't surprised. They're saying this was inevitable, that Drake's rise was always going to create enemies, that his empire was built on too many rivalries, too many secrets, too much control, and now the whispers are growing louder because if Drake is really banned from hip-hop, if the doors of the industry are really closing on him, then we're not just watching the fall of a superstar. We're watching the end of an era. And here's the most chilling part: the whispers say Drake knew this day was coming, that behind closed doors he saw the betrayal unfolding, but he couldn't stop it, that his arrogance blinded him to the enemies he was making, that he laughed at the idea anyone could take him down until now. Drake officially banned from hip-hop. The industry turning its back. The king dethroned by the very kingdom he ruled. And if you think that's shocking, wait until you hear the real reason why the ban came down when it did. Because the next chapter in this story doesn't just expose the betrayal, it reveals the darkest secrets. Drake has been hiding all along. The whispers turned into thunder the moment the news broke. Drake was no longer welcome in hip-hop. Not just ignored, not just dissed, but officially frozen out. It started with collaborations drying up. Fans noticed that Drake's name was missing from the features list of major projects where he used to be a guaranteed presence. Hot albums dropped, new singles climbed the charts, and for the first time in over a decade, Drake's voice was nowhere to be found. The silence was deafening. The silence was deafening. Then came the live events. Insiders leaked that Drake had been quietly uninvited from several upcoming award shows. One anonymous source claimed they told him straight up, it's not a good look to have him right now. Another leaked text message from a promoter flat out said, "The industry made a decision. Don't book him." The idea that the same industry that once crowned him king had now locked him out sent shockwaves across the fan base. Social media lit up with disbelief. One viral tweet screamed, "A Drake show banned. This is hip-hop suicide." Another wrote, "You don't cancel the biggest artist of the decade unless something major went down." And that's when the first twist hit. Screenshots leaked from a supposed secret industry group chat that included managers, label heads, and high-profile artists. In the chat, one figure allegedly wrote, "We gave him too much power. Time to shut it down." Another chilling line read, "No more passes. He burned too many bridges." Fans went into panic mode. Was this proof that hip-hop's power players had turned against Drake in a coordinated move? Was the ban not a rumor, but a deliberate takedown? Adding fuel to the fire, a leaked audio clip surfaced, allegedly from a closed-door meeting. In the clip, a voice rumored to belong to a legendary rapper said, "Drake's been playing both sides for too long. He thinks he's untouchable. Let's see how he moves when nobody answers his calls." The clip spread like wildfire. Whether real or not, fans believed it. It confirmed every suspicion they'd had for years. That Drake wasn't just disliked, he was despised, and the evidence piled up. Rappers who once jumped at the chance to work with Drake were now posting cryptic tweets. One rising star tweeted, "I don't chase clout. I protect the culture." Another wrote, "Some doors you can't reopen once you close them." Producers followed suit, with one veteran hitmaker hinting, "I don't care how big the check is. Some names don't belong on my track anymore." The betrayal was brutal. The same people who built their careers off Drake's cosign were now abandoning him. The culture that he helped push into the mainstream was now pushing him out, and the fans, they were torn apart. Half the fanbase screamed that Drake was a victim of jealousy, punished for being too successful. The other half said the whispers were true, that his arrogance, his behind-the-scenes power plays, and his willingness to exploit smaller artists had finally caught up to him. Then came the most shocking twist yet. A major blog dropped a bombshell report claiming that Drake wasn't just being frozen out. He was being investigated by industry watchdogs for alleged backroom deals that violated contracts, undercut artists, and manipulated streaming numbers. The report cited credible sources who claimed Drake had been caught bending the rules so badly that even the labels wanted distance. Fans were floored. Was this the real reason he was banned? Had the industry simply had enough of his games? The internet exploded. Hashtags like #DrakeBanned and #IsThisTheEnd trended for days. TikTok was flooded with conspiracy videos connecting old feuds, leaked texts, and cryptic lyrics that fans now claimed were warnings of his downfall. And through it all, Drake stayed silent. No tweets, no Instagram posts, no interviews. For a man who usually controlled the narrative, his silence was terrifying. To fans, it wasn't just quiet, it was confirmation that the whispers were true. The betrayal was complete. The industry had turned its back. The fans were split. And Drake, he looked like a man exiled from the very empire he built. But this was only the first twist. Because behind the whispers of bans and betrayals lurked an even darker secret. One that, if true, would explain not just the ban, but the entire conspiracy against him. And when that truth surfaced, the story went from shocking to catastrophic. At first, fans thought the news of Drake's ban was exaggerated. Maybe it was just another wave of jealousy, another rumor that would vanish once he dropped a new hit. After all, hadn't Drake survived worse? Ghostwriting scandals, Pusha T exposes, Meek Mill wars each time. He came back stronger, but this time was different. Because as the whispers grew louder, Shocking leaks started surfacing that painted a much darker picture. The first reveal came in the form of alleged industry documents, leaked to a popular hip-hop blog. The files, stamped with blurred-out logos and names, claimed to show a pattern of Drake's alleged manipulation of streaming platforms. According to the documents, songs tied to Drake's label were pushed to playlists disproportionately, creating inflated numbers that gave him an unfair advantage. The report claimed execs had grown furious, calling him a one-man monopoly who was suffocating the culture. The phrase written in one margin made fans' blood run cold. He's not building hip-hop, he's rigging it. Social media exploded. On Twitter, fans debated whether the documents were real. "This explains everything," one viral thread read. "The ban isn't personal, it's business." Another countered, "Come on, every artist boosts streams. Why are they only coming after Drake?" But then another reveal hit, and this one was even worse. A leaked voice memo, allegedly recorded during a closed-door industry summit, spread like wildfire across Reddit and TikTok. The grainy clip captured a voice many claimed belonged to a legendary producer, saying, "We gave Drake too much rope. He used the game, used the culture, used all of us. Now it's time to cut him off." He's not hip-hop anymore. He's corporate. The word sent chills down the internet's spine. Was this the smoking gun? Proof that the so-called ban wasn't about petty feuds, but a deliberate industry decision to exile him. Fans reacted with hysteria. TikTok filled with teary-eyed edits, clips of Drake's old songs playing over captions like he gave us everything. Now they're taking it away. On the other side, critics cheered. Memes mocked him as the Spotify emperor finally dethroned, calling the ban justice for years of exploiting the culture. And then came the celebrity reactions. Rappers who had stayed silent for years suddenly started posting cryptic messages. One veteran MC tweeted, "The game always cleanses itself. Snakes don't last." Another wrote, "I warned y'all. This day was coming." The most shocking reaction came from a megastar producer who had collaborated with Drake on some of his biggest hits. On Instagram, he posted a photo of a burning bridge with the caption, "Never again." Fans knew instantly who he was talking about. It seemed like everyone was turning against Drake. But then came the twist nobody expected. An anonymous insider leaked that the so-called ban wasn't just about streaming manipulation or burned bridges. It was about something far bigger. A secret deal Drake allegedly made that cut out some of the most powerful figures in the industry. According to the leak, Drake had quietly secured a partnership with a tech giant to release exclusive content, bypassing traditional labels and gatekeepers. The move would have given him unprecedented independence, essentially allowing him to dominate music without relying on the usual power players to his fans. This sounded genius. To the industry, it was treason. He tried to play kingmaker without the kings, the insider allegedly said. That's why they banned him. Not for beefs, not for streams. Because he threatened the machine itself. The revelation flipped the narrative overnight. Suddenly, Drake wasn't just a rapper under fire. He was a man at war with the very industry he once ruled. Was he a victim of a smear campaign? Or had his own ambition pushed him too far? Fans were divided all over again. One side screamed, "They're scared of Drake's power. That's why they cut him off." The other side clapped back. He thought he could beat the game. But the game always wins. The chaos was unbearable. YouTube filled with conspiracy breakdowns. Instagram was flooded with memes portraying Drake as both a martyr and a villain. Twitter trended with hashtags like #FreeDrake and #DrakeIsDone simultaneously. And through it all, Drake said nothing. No denial, no confirmation. Just silence. That silence became the most haunting part of all. Because if the leaks were true, then Drake wasn't just being boycotted. He was being erased. The doors were closed. The bridges were burned. And the man once seen as untouchable was now being hunted by the very empire he built. The question wasn't just if Drake. The reactions were immediate, loud, and brutally divided. On Twitter, tags trended back to back. #FreeDrake and #DrakeIsOverParty. Millions of fans flooded timelines with emotional posts. Some begged for him to speak out. We need answers. Drake can't just disappear. Others celebrated his downfall, posting gleeful memes, "Good riddance to the culture vulture." TikTok was flooded with edits, some heart-wrenching, set to tracks like Marvin's Room, with captions like "He gave us a soundtrack for life." And now they're erasing him. Others mocked him with cartoon voices, narrating his banishment from the kingdom of hip-hop. These videos racked up millions of views in hours, but the reactions from other rappers. That's what shook fans the most. Artists who once collaborated with Gret, even those who owed their careers to his cosign, began posting cryptic messages. One tweeted, "Not all money is good money. Watch who you work with." Another wrote, "The culture always wins. Don't play games with it." Fans instantly decoded these as thinly veiled shots at Drake, proof that the industry had indeed turned its back. And then came the Alisters, a megastar rapper, known for his own history of beef with Drake, posted a single emoji on Instagram, a coffin. Fans lost their minds. The post was screenshotted, shared, and dissected endlessly. Was it confirmation that Drake's career was dead? Or just another troll feeding into the chaos? Even R&B singers and pop stars chimed in. One Grammy-winning artist tweeted, "Sad to see the culture eat its own, but snakes always get exposed." Another wrote, "He thought he was bigger than the game. Nobody is bigger than the game." The industry wasn't just gossiping, it was gloating. Hip-hop blogs exploded with coverage. Headlines screamed, "Drake banned." Insiders claim music's biggest star has been blacklisted. The fall of a king. How Drake lost the culture's respect. Did Drake's greed push him out of hip-hop forever? Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to breaking down the ban. YouTubers racked up millions of views, nihilizing every leaked screenshot, every cryptic post, every reaction from fellow artists. Some framed it as the end of an era. Others painted it as the ultimate conspiracy, a coordinated takedown of hip-hop's biggest name. And then came the global press. The BBC ran a segment on the Drake ban, calling it one of the most dramatic cultural exiles in music history. French newspapers called him the fallen prince of hip-hop. African outlets debated whether Drake had been punished for greed or silenced for independence. The story wasn't just an American scandal anymore. It was international. Fans on Reddit went into detective mode, compiling evidence in massive threads. They connected dots between old beefs, suspicious industry moves, and lyrics from Drake's songs that they now claimed were foreshadowing his downfall. One thread argued that Drake had been hinting at betrayal for years, pointing to lines like "They turn they back on you, they leave you for dead." But the most shocking reactions came from ordinary fans. Videos of people crying to Drake's music went viral. One young fan sobbed on camera, "He raised me. He got me through heartbreak. And now they want to erase him. I can't take it." Others, though, celebrated with pure spite, blasting clips of Pusha T's story of Adidon and captioning them, "He should have been canceled years ago." The divide was vicious. Drake was no longer just a rapper. He had become a cultural fault line. To some, he was the victim of a jealous, vindictive industry. To others, he was the architect of his own downfall. A man who thought he could outsmart the system and got burned. And through all of this, the tears, the memes, the think pieces, Drake remained silent. His Instagram, usually filled with flexes, was dark. His Twitter, once a hub off Subliminal, was quiet. His silence wasn't just unusual. It was terrifying. Fans debated endlessly. Was he regrouping for a comeback? Or had he accepted his exile? One viral TikTok summed up the public's feelings perfectly. We're not just watching a career end. We're watching history. Drake isn't being canceled. He's being erased. And the scariest part? The reactions weren't calming down. They were intensifying, because the whispers weren't done. Rumors swirled that the industry wasn't just turning its back. It was preparing to expose secrets even darker, scandals even bigger, truths even Drake wouldn't be able to deny. And if those whispers were true, then what was coming next wouldn't just damage his career, it could bury it forever. Just when the internet thought it had heard everything, the final twist hit, and it was worse than anyone could have imagined. Late one night, a mysterious account dropped a massive leak, a set of alleged internal emails between executives, producers, and promoters. The subject line on one of the emails read, "Project Clean Slate," and inside, the words were chilling. "We cannot allow Drake to continue. His influence is toxic. He destabilizes the system. Effective immediately. Deny features. Deny placements. Deny bookings. If he tries to bypass the industry, make sure it fails. He is blacklisted." Fans couldn't believe what they were reading. Screenshots of the emails spread like wildfire across Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok. The implications were terrifying. This wasn't just a few rappers throwing shade or promoters dropping him from lineups. This was an organized effort to erase Drake from hip-hop completely. And then came the bombshell line from one of the supposed messages. He tried to build his own empire. Now we'll bury it. The internet froze. For years, fans had speculated that Drake was bigger than hip-hop itself, that his business deals and global influence made him untouchable. But if these leaks were true, the industry had decided to prove him wrong. They weren't just banning him, they were making an example out of him. The reactions were immediate and brutal. On one side, fans screamed that this was proof of a conspiracy, that Drake was being punished for being too powerful, too independent. They're scared of him. One viral tweet read, "This isn't justice, it's sabotage." On the other side, critics claimed the leaks confirmed what they'd always believed. Drake had been gaming the system, and now the system was striking back. "He played dirty, and now he's paying the price," wrote one blogger. But the most haunting part wasn't the leaks themselves. It was Drake's response. Because hours after the emails spread, he finally broke his silence, and what he posted sent shivers down fans' spines. On Instagram, Drake uploaded a single story. A black background, white text. "Just for words, you can't erase me." The internet lost its mind. Fans rallied instantly, flooding timelines with support. The sixth god will rise again. Others mocked him, posting coffin emojis and saying, "Yes, they can." They already did. But everyone agreed on one thing. Drake wasn't going quietly. And that's what makes that cliffhanger so terrifying. Because if the industry has truly turned, it's back if the leaks, the bans and the blacklists are all real. Then Drake is standing alone against the most powerful forces in music. His silence, broken only by that cryptic post, feels less like defiance and more like a warning. Fans are left asking the only question that deep matters now. Is Drake about to launch the fight of his life? Or is this really the end of the man who once ruled hip-hop? The stage is set. The battle lines are drawn, and the next move could decide everything. And that's where things stand. Right now, a story nobody thought they'd ever see. Drake, the man who spent more than a decade at the very top of the rap game, is now facing something